Let's all give a warm round of applause for George the Poet.
Morning, everyone. It's a real honor to be able to speak to you all today. This makes me genuinely nervous. I do a lot of public address. Obviously, this is my career. But it makes me nervous because I do it all for you. You lot are the real measure of how effective my representation or my art is. And that's an unavoidable fact of what I do for a few simple reasons. Firstly, the majority of people in this room have ancestry that only arrived in this country in the past 50, 60 years, maybe. You might get a few 70s and 80s in there. But we, because of our recent arrival in this country, did not necessarily inherit a community of elders in the position that you guys are in now. Our elders had other advantages, maybe their connection to home, maybe their sense of identity, maybe their culture that they were kind of cultivated in that we might not have had the opportunity to be. But we have unique opportunities. Just look at the sponsors of this event. Look at that beat. Come, let's make some noise for the sponsors. This is crazy. Accenture, Sky, come on. So I think it's really important to be aware that we are that community. We are going to be among the first to be able to direct future generations of young black people in ways that were not possible for generations before us. And that's really important because what we have is cumulative knowledge. Like we know stuff and we build it up and we figure out little tricks and secrets that are kind of unique to our experience. And knowledge is a powerful thing. When you really think about it, knowledge is like a record of insight. It's like a journal of discovery. So you may have had no knowledge of me prior to this moment, but I existed before you discovered me. Knowledge is information that we get to admire. But what about the knowledge we have yet to acquire? The bits you forget, the bits you neglect. Imagine all the knowledge that slips through the net. Pearls of wisdom that haven't been given that polish. Understanding you can't access at college, simply because it hasn't been accredited according to academics. It's not knowledge until it's acknowledged. I believe we have a duty. It's like being in church, man. You know, like. I love you, lot. I love you. I believe we have a duty to act on it, to analyze life, and to extricate fact from it. See, when we take from the world, we don't have to subtract from it. Using what we extract from it, we can impact on it. Because all existence is contribution. Ignore the twists and convolution. There's 7.2 billion people in the world, and there's only one you. Everyone brings something to the table, but not everyone gets a seat. And when people don't get a seat, then people don't get to eat. But that's only half of the tragedy. The other half is equally sad to see. Remember that knowledge I was talking about, which is often protected by illusion. Those same people are walking about with an uncollected contribution, untapped potential, unlocked ability, hidden wisdom, unsung possibility. We live in a world that celebrates our young for being more professional than clever. And that's a shame at a time where knowledge is more accessible than ever. Think about it. Time and place have passed the physical stage. We now live in a digital age, and we have much more to contribute than unfulfilling jobs for minimal wage. We want self-determination. Through self-determination, we can help to serve a nation. See, knowledge is information on which we step to get higher into rarefied atmospheres with thin air. But what about that which we have yet to acquire? It's not just out there, it's in here. It's locked in your neighbor, in the experiences of the person sitting behind you, in the memories of the people you're about to meet in the next few hours. That knowledge is within them. So I'd like to invite you all to embrace this opportunity and connect to the maximum of your ability. Is that cool? Yeah. All right. So I want to explain a little bit more about who I am, what my journey has been. Age of 15, I'm 28 years old now. When I was 15 years old, I started rapping, and I was rapping for about 5 years, just before I turned 20. And I kind of lost faith in rap. I felt like what we were saying with our platform, this was the first wave of grime music, it got a little bit circular, and that frustrated me. So by the time I got to university, I was the only black man on campus in my year at the time. I didn't want to be pigeonholed as a rapper, so I backed away from it. But my friend was president of ACS. He was putting on an event. As soon as I got there, he begged me to perform, and I gave in. Shouts out to him. But what the condition I gave him was, I'll do your event only if I don't actually rap it. I'm just going to talk. And ever since then, I've been doing poetry. Poetry's been good. It has allowed me to connect with different audiences, allowed me to represent our experience, like I said, in a way that wasn't circular, that breathed new life into the conversations that mattered to me the most. And one thing that I realized was that I was studying sociology. Poetry allowed me to blend sociology with rap, and that really meant a lot to me. One of my favorite theorists of my studies was a man called Pierre Bourdieu. And Bourdieu had a theory. He said, all reality is a construct. So basically, we exist in relation to our social ties. That means you'll never understand me without considering where I'm from and some of the local guys. I'm the exception to the rule. The only one in year 6 who gets into a school that at the time isn't already under a warning since Ofsted declared it was underperforming. So you can imagine the wonder and awe when little George's post finally comes in the morning. They're screaming, shouting, thunderous, you know Africans, thunderous bawling at my letter of acceptance to the school. See, I'm the exception to the rule. Problem is, it's not what I wanted. It's not like I felt scared to be there. But it was far from home in more ways than one, and all of my friends were elsewhere, to be fair. See, that was my first real lesson in opportunity. Save yourself or get left in a lost community. Even though I saw myself and my friends, if I stayed there, I couldn't be much help for my ends. You see, all reality is a construct. We exist in relation to other guys and girls. So imagine I had to move to a better reality from one where everybody tries and fails. I can't say I lived to regret the decision, given that so many of them are now dead and in prison. After growing up too fast from a young age, having to supplement their mum's wage, leaving school early to make easy money because in their eyes, education doesn't amount to much, getting into trouble, coming out of trouble, but the world's moved on. Now they're out of touch. Just as serious as everyone else, without as much experience as everyone else. And anyway, what sort of vocation is eager for people that report to probation? In a job market hampered by fear, aggression, and a severe recession, the absolute dream was a clear profession with even the slightest prospect of career progression. So here's the question. Who deserves a job? A benefits recipient, labeled a worthless slob. Society treats hard-to-reach people like a single subversive mob, but all reality is a construct. We exist in relation to our social ties. So no matter what you see around you, the real world happens when you close your eyes. You don't have to compromise yourself for your salary. You don't have to jeopardize your health or your sanity. You have the right to be a blessing, not a burden. Find purpose in service. Be a help for your family. If we forget how outcast the voice of an outcast is, they'll never be heard. Their words are just noises without answers. See, the fact is there are no choices without chances. And I want us to really think about that today, because we have the chance to do things that we never imagined before. Do things that other people might have told us at some point were impossible. And impossible is a funny word. This is the final thought I want to leave you guys with today. Impossible is a word people use to describe something they can't do. Sometimes they might want to be sadistic. Tell you, mate, I'm just being realistic. Say, what you want is near enough impossible. It's nigh impossible. They like you to think you'll lie in hospital for defying obstacles and trying not to fall. But their impossible isn't my impossible. There are no winners until someone's won it. You won't know what I'm capable of until I've done it. I could either stand here patient and listen, wanting to make a decision, having to wait for permission, or I could make a decision. I could take a position. Think about it. Impossible is the manifestation of your inhibition. So fear of flying is fear of trying. Your mind's racing and your heart isn't out to help. They're turning against you and you're starting to doubt yourself. The nights are cold, the mornings are rough. Now you're worrying about people calling your bluff, second-guessing your ability and all of your stuff. But no, you alone is more than enough. This is the truth I saw before I went to sleep. I knew this time would come eventually, so I celebrate every test ever sent to me, because what's about to be was meant to be. It's remarkable to try, but I can't afford to die knowing my ambition didn't kill me. Forget the voice of reason, listen to the real me. No guts, no glory. My name is George the Poet. I will be performing at King's Place for the London Podcast Festival this Friday. If you want to hear more, you want to hear me snitch on the whole community, come through, man. I'd love to see you there. Shout out to BYP and all of yourselves. I'm looking forward to what today brings. God bless. Thank you.